Yeah.
And I find I don't have a sense of how, if there's too many people going through the PhD program in Canada right now, or if there's not enough people going through the PhD program. Like I read conflicting reports on whether or not there's going to be a demand.
I think it's a little hard to tell, and part of what makes it hard to tell is that mandatory retirement is no longer in place. And it seems to be the evidence from the States is that people don't just because the mandatory retirement is not in existence, people don't necessarily stay and work till they're 80, although some do. But seeing how that plays out is gonna play a role in that. I feel pretty fortunate that I finished when I did, because I kind of feel like I squeaked in just before the end of mandatory retirement, when there was suddenly there was a lot of openings in my department where people were forced to retire. And if they hadn't been forced to retire, they might still be there and I might not be here, right? So it's a little hard to predict. I think that in general, unemployment rates are low for people with PhDs, even with social science PhDs. So, odds are good that you'll get a job and it'll be an okay job somewhere, but it may not be a job at a great university. It may not be an academic job. And again, another thing that makes it hard to predict is that a lot of those studies are sort of based on looking at sort of Canadian graduate student production and Canadian jobs. It's not actually how the labor market works. It's an international labor market. Like I said, most of our applications were from American students. So just looking at the sort of, the openings and the flow of Canadian graduate students doesn't actually tell you about the pool of applicants to openings. And places like UBC are very attractive to people because Vancouver's a great place to live, and so you'll get lots of people applying for those positions. Other places that are not perceived as being as attractive, will be easier to get a job, for sure. Yeah. So sorry, that's not a straight answer, but to be honest, I tend to be a little negative and cynical, so I tend to be like, oh, there's not enough jobs, and we don't count on getting a job. But that's that tends to be my personal bias. I think that you need to be a little bit realistic and think that that it's tough and that you need to do everything you can, therefore, to be competitive and to succeed.